Good afternoon. My name is Jan Jiřík and I am the dramaturg of PalmOFF festival. And on behalf of the whole team of organizers of our festival, I would like to welcome you here at Palmovka theater, Divadlo pod Palmovkou. The main topic or main slogan of our festival, it's third edition of international encounter of Central European theaters, is a question: do we already have what we wanted? It's a question which helps us to discuss contemporary political, social and cultural situation, conditions in the countries of Central European region. I am very happy that this symposium takes place in the frame of our festival. The question about the theater as a public institution is our question as well. So I would like to thank you to the Arts and Theatre Institute in Prague, and namely Martina Pecková Černá, that she decided to organize this symposium here, and I would like to thanks to other theatre institutes which are involved in this event, and of course I would like to thank you to you for your coming. So, thank you very much, and Martina, stage is yours.
Not for a long time, I hope. Hello everybody, good afternoon, welcome at the DRAMplan symposium, which is organized in frame of a cooperation of theater institutes in the Visegrad region. We have started this cooperation in 2012, and actually today's event is a part of a whole marathon, in which our guests from all the 4 Visegrad countries are participating. It is a 4-day event with networking moments, internal and expert sessions, visiting performances, discussing with artists, and public events such as today's symposium. We will continue on Monday and Tuesday in Bratislava, so today we are in the middle of our program. I would like to thank the theatre institutes, namely Theatre Institute in Bratislava, who was very much helping with the whole program, but also Zbigniew Kraszewski Theatre Institute in Warsaw and Hungarian Theatre Museum and the Institute in Budapest, who are our main partners in this Visegrad cooperation focused on performing arts. I would like to thank also to the festival PalmOFF for hosting us, but not only for facilitating us this space, but also for the cooperation with the preparation of the whole concept of the symposium. We will talk about drama theater. It is still a genre which is mostly performed and mostly visited in the Visegrad region and Central Europe in general. And it is heavily subsidized from public budgets. Therefore, we chose our today's topic, theater as public value, public investment, and public need. The symposium will be divided into 3 panels. In the first one, we will cope with national and city theaters. We will continue with regional city theaters in the second panel. And in the third panel, we will talk with representatives of outstanding projects coming from independent scene and dealing with drama and text-based theater. That's all. Enjoy the symposium. You will have also an opportunity to ask some questions in the discussion parts, and I give the floor to Alice Koubová, who will be the moderator of the first panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is it functioning? Yes. the microphone functions. Thank you very much. Welcome once again to this discussion that is focused on the dramaturgy and social role of national and city theatres. We have approximately 1 hour and a half for, I hope at least, more informal than formal presentation of 4 points of view from 4 countries of V4, this, let's say, regional space, the Visegrádské space, and I would love to propose you this exceptional occasion, not only to hear one perspective on the relatively similar issue that is dramaturgy in the national or state-run or city-run theatres, but also the interconnection or maybe some kind of interaction between your experiences. I would like to introduce our speakers first, the dramaturg of the National Theatre in Bratislava, Slovak Republic, Miriam Chyčíňová, I'm very sorry. András Kozma, who is the dramaturg of the National Theatre in Budapest. Pavel Štarbovský, who is the deputy director and dramaturg of Teatr Povšechny in Warsaw, which is a city-run theatre. And Marta Ljubková, who is the dramaturg of National Theatre in Prague. So we have 3 dramaturgs of national theatres of the respective countries and 1 representative of the city theatre. So we will discuss the situation of 4 institutions that are financially supported by some political bodies. That in 3 cases is the Ministry of Culture, and in 1 case it's the city who supports Teatr Povšechny. And we are discussing our issues in the time that is very often and more described with terms like radical political polarization that we heard yesterday, critical turning point, race of non-democratic procedures through democratic means, lack of trust in political representation, comeback of autocratic regimes, normalization, which means some kind of self-censorship before we are actually forced by the power, and distrust in the public space, power, and even distrust in the power of art. I would love to ask our speakers the first question. Can you grasp in a very short way what is, according to the situation, the social political context in your respective countries that is important for your position as a national or city theatre? You can use only very short description. You can start with adjectives or short sentences. It's not necessary to describe the whole context, but I would love that we create some basic social political context where the problem is situated now.
So I start because I think I'm from a totally calm country actually, even though we have very tragic 7 months and we still solving and thinking about what is like real ruler of the country now. But I think this is there's nothing changing in the thinking of the people inside of the theater, and we still have like good relationship with the Ministry of Culture. Even we have also the very bad connection to the Ministry of Culture because the mostly the lady and the Minister of Culture was changed. So also, I mean, like our relationship to them is a little bit changed. The National Theatre in last period was still understand something like a little bit against the main party in Slovakia, and I think that they also understand us that we are like a little bit in opposition, but we are still polite and we are doing it in a very nice way by interesting and good performances. So we had nothing like to do that something was stopped or forbidden. But maybe now is a situation that one pressure, what can be, it's kind of the economical pressure. So we have to deal with the money. So, but now is like you need much more money, so we have to rethink how you can get this money, because maybe the problem is that you are spending so much money more as the other theatre in Slovakia. So now I think this this type of consolidation or normalization is slowly maybe coming across the money and across this economical situation. I mean, this maybe will be the problem, but this doesn't mean that we have to like stop something in our program or we have to change our dramaturgy. We were in this last 10 years like total open theater who were able to create performances about our politicians, about our oligarchs, about our social problems, about our contemporary problems in society and polarization. So it was also we were asking to work with us the people from a scene which is much more independent, and we gave them the space, and it's something like normal.
Thank you, thank you. We will come to all these topics, and it's excellent that you have a startup like that. Thank you.
I'm one of the dramaturgs of the National Theatre. We have 4 dramaturgs.
I see.
So I'm one of them. Anyway, I'm sorry for my poor English. I try to express my ideas, opinion about the situation in Hungary. So, not only in Hungary, but in the Central Europe and all over Europe, maybe in all over the world, is politically and socially the society is quite divided, polarized. There are lots of conflicts in different ways. So for us, always, for theaters, for people of art, it's a big question how to deal with this. So do we have to be a part of the political battles, or our goal is to have a kind of human dialogue? How can we help for understanding and not to accumulate the conflicts inside of the society? So in this way, of course, National Theatre has a quite special position, because National Theatre, so as yesterday I told, in Hungary there are 5, except of Budapest National Theatre, there are 5 other national theatres in the provincial cities. And the Budapest National Theatre has a very wide range of audiences, so we try to catch as much as wide range of people, and that's why we try to find, how to say, so we are trying to have a dialogue with the society, okay? So.
Okay, great. So you were speaking about polarization and the big question how to deal with this situation. Please, Pavel.
In Poland now, governmental cultural policy is, completely destroyed culture. In 2015, Conservative Party Law and Justice won the elections. And they won the elections with the slogan "Good Change," and proposed some kind of cultural revolution, I think, because I think it's a good notion to describe this policy. And in official language, it is an attempt to make Poland great and proud country. But the way for this is built nationalistic, xenophobic and excluding ideas. I think it's maybe it's the subject to develop later, because I think in other countries it's quite similar situation, maybe not so strong as in Poland, but political tensions for artists in Poland are extraordinarily strong, and art should build a national and Catholic identity of Polish audiences, of Polish people. New government, Minister of Culture, hates experiments in the arts, they hate innovations, they hate critical art as well. And they try to censor artist work. Financial censorship is everyday life for art institutions now. But my position is you know, the position of city-funded theater. So what is good, I think, in Polish structure, Polish organization of theater is this multitasking and mixed structures. Structure that we have only two national theaters, National Theatre in Warsaw, which is, you know, very big theater without political idea, and completely destroyed now by Ministry of Culture, old theater, Stary Theater in Krakow. So this division between federal, regional and municipal institutions is very helpful now, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. So you mentioned the 2015 change and relatively free or relatively creative fact that there is a difference between municipal leadership and the state-run leadership.
Yes. And today we have regional and city elections, so maybe tomorrow everything will change also in regional and city theaters.
Marta, what is the social and political situation in Czech Republic faced, or how do you face this social and political context of our country as a dramaturg of the National Theatre?
Us as the drama department of the National Theatre, we have to meet or solve three ways or three different groups of expectations. One is the expectation from the Minister of Culture, who's the biggest financer of the National Theatre, and so far, maybe we will talk about it in more details, but so far we are not facing any direct conflict with the Minister of Culture. I think it's partially because the Minister of Culture doesn't have any clear ideological politics of what the Czech culture should be like, so far we are profiting from this unclearness of what the National Theatre should be from the political aspect. Then we have to face our own expectation, what us as artists want to deliver via the National Theatre, and then what is actually the expectation of audience. And I think this is our biggest struggle to find at the moment what the social position of the National Theatre and the role of the National Theatre is, because National Theatre is declared to belong to everyone, you know, those who are checking the audience, they know what I'm talking about. And I think we actually have to find out who this everyone is, and if we are not reducing this everyone to only a certain group of society. So for me, the biggest social concern now is to really be open to everyone, include minorities, and ask ourselves how to address really the society as a whole, and not only in Prague, or also outside of Prague, or find a new audience for the National Theatre, and this way redefine what the National Theatre really is.
Thank you very much. So we were somehow, like you touched upon the financial aspect of being run by the political representation. You also were discussing the role, how to deal with the polarized climate in your countries, and how to redefine the mission of national theatres. So let's talk about the first issue, the fact that you are, so to say, not only paid, but you are really run by you are city or state-run institution. Do you feel that you are somewhat bought by those who won the elections, or do you feel that actually you should perform for all people who created the social and political climate, which means those who resisted it and those who supported it, and at the same time influence it through artistic means. Am I clear in my question? So my question is, if you feel some kind of responsibility, we made a questionnaire. Andreas was speaking about strong responsibility to those who somewhat elected you as the artistic institution. Does this responsibility to the people, so to say, makes you free or makes you rather pressed or limited in your possibilities? If you can start, Miriam.
For me, it's now a weird situation because we had such a good 5 or 6 season that I got the feeling that no one from this winning party tell us what is right to do or what was a little bit incorrect to do. So I don't think that it is this kind of pressure or wishes, and we did like a lot of, may I say, like open dramaturgy, and we were really trying to think about everybody, and we have to be responsible for that state budget, but this doesn't mean that we have to stop our creativity and our approach to all that social problems which are in society, and to be to be critical. So therefore I'm speaking from the position where it was possible to do almost like everything from this artistic point of view and also this critical point of view, what we think about that party and this party, and to create like a lot of also specific projects which were, for example, against extremistic party, etc. So, but it's really my feeling and our position that we as the most strongest theater, if I can say, because it's true, we have the big budget, we are the big company, it's the strong name, it's 100-year tradition, and our former director, Roman Polak, was a very important cultural person, so his voice was something what was able to protect a lot of troubles, what was able to protect a lot of also helpful things for the other theaters. So I'm speaking from the position free theater, which has the courage to do a lot of important things. Maybe few of them were not very okay for the audience, but we have also no problem with the audience. It's not possible to buy the tickets in National Theatre. We are totally sold out, and it's crazy. We don't know when this high level can go and how long it can be like this. And we did also like contemporary plays and documentary plays based on research, etc. So it was not that we found this audience just because we did nice Fado every day. It was not like this. It was because we did also the performance about Karpatsky thriller, about the oligarchs and about the company Siemens, and so etc. etc.
We will see 2 excellent excerpts from what you were talking now about, so we will come to these examples that will very well demonstrate what you are saying now. Thank you. What about National Theatre in Budapest? How this fact that you are the cultural representative of the people of Hungary, not only those who won the elections, but of everybody, is somewhat displayed in your position or behave like dramaturgy, let's say.
Well, of course, we know that every theatre, especially National Theatre, or not especially, but has a special responsibility towards the owner. And the owner of the National Theatre is 100% the state. But I think we have a policy of cooperation with the power, with the state. But for us, the state is the society, the Hungarian society, in its complexity. And first of all, we have a responsibility towards this very complex Hungarian society, and that's why we try to have a repertoire which can be not understood, but which can be a field of dialogue with the different fields of society, especially, for example, the minorities, national minorities in Hungary. We have a festival of national minorities in Hungary. At least, I think, 9 different minorities like Gypsy, Slovakian, Polish, Armenian, Greek, and so on, Ukrainian, and these small theaters, minority theaters, plays on their national language, and so we organize a festival for them, for example. Also, we have special program for the people of disability, sign language, for translation. Well, this and on the other hand, we try to widen the door for the foreign culture, not only for the European culture, but we try to bring lots of influences from Asia, from Middle Asia, or from Africa, or so from different cultures to have influence, to impress, and to have a dialogue, the Hungarian audience, and have a dialogue between far cultures.
But how would you comment on the fact that the previous director of National Theatre was publicly condemned for being homosexual and non-Christian or not Catholic, as a reason for not being the good person for leading National Theatre? Is that? Can you just comment on it? What's your opinion about this?
Sorry, so what's the problem with this? We had no conflict. I mean, personally, or the new director had no personally conflict with the previous director.
No. I'm not saying. It's just my interest in your opinion about using the fact that somebody is homosexual as a political, so to say, tool against somebody and his artistic.
For us, it's not a question. So everybody can have a possibility, so not depending on his sexual orientation or religion or any sense.
So you disagree with the fact that one should or can use that against somebody? Pavel, what?
I think our theatre, in our situation in powszechny theatre as city-funded theatre, is probably easier than the situation of nationals theatres, because the expectations are different. I think in Warsaw there are about 20 theatres. So we are one of them, and even if we try to articulate our theatre as a space of ideas, as a space of critical reflections, as a strong political place, I think officers and politics, especially from the center, tell, okay, it's only one of 20 other theaters, okay, it could be the place for something like this, but in the case of national theater, probably the expectations are different, and for example, the situation with Jan Klata in Stary Theater in Kraków is good example, I think, because Jan Klata now isn't very provocative artist. He isn't a scandalous artist, but in the case of National Stary Theater in Kraków, his theatrical language for some conservative people and politicians was too strong, yes, and there were the manifestations, etc., etc. I think maybe in other theater, in smaller theater, it wasn't different situation. But
is it an advantage? It might be understood as an advantage because you don't have to, so to say, cover the whole spectrum of audience, but it might be also a disadvantage in terms of being in some kind of bubble of those who are already persuaded in advance. Do you think that you can address those who actually shall, according to your values, reconsider their opinions?
I don't know. I think I have the problem with thinking about, you know, involving people from right side to the theater, or involving, I don't know, conservative audience and changing its point of view, etc., etc. Because what is the problem for me from our last 30 years after you know the transformation time, after communism fall the time, it was something like artificial dialogue, the category of artificial dialogue, that it was, I think, the most important notion in programs of neoliberal parties in the 90s in Poland, that we should create dialogue. Yes, and everybody was dialoguing in the 90s and after, but it was completely artificial, I think, because nobody was able to articulate the conflicts and their own point of view, a real point of view. So this situation of artificial dialogue, in my opinion, creates something like you know, hidden conflicts. And hide many levels of real social life and real state of the society. And what is the most important for us in Powszechny is you know the proof to show this real state of the society.
Okay, so you hesitate whether dialogue can be done in this situation, that maybe it's better to simply state what you think and not to go into artificial dialogue.
You know, I hope that after articulating real conflicts, yes, we can make dialogue. But it's, you know, completely different level of start this dialogue when we know who we are, what are our political ideas, what are our expectations, etc.
Okay, this is an interesting point. Hopefully we will come to that also in terms of, as I understood the mission of Teatr Powszechny, it's about really formulating through artistic means the topics of conflict in order to make them visible, and then maybe on the basis of these clearly formulated topics we can start a dialogue. But before we actually know exactly what we are, so to say, disagreeing one with another, we cannot start a dialogue.
Yes, I think if I have to close our ideas in two sentences, the first one would be making conflicts visible, and the second one would be performing the multitude.
Marta,
I think it's not theatre, not only the national theatre, but theatre as such in the Czech Republic. What's in stake or in critical situation at the moment, it's media now, and I think most of the influence of the politics is now centered towards television and other media, and we can see that by our Prime Minister buying whatever can print or speak publicly, and therefore the theatre is in comfortable in a way position, because whatever you say nowadays on theatre, on the stage, is not reflected by the politics. The theatres are too marginalized at the moment, I think, and it's not the place where wherefrom you could influence the public opinion. Unfortunately, in a way, unfortunately in the other way. One effect of this is that, like, theatre criticism is slowly disappearing from the big printed media, for instance.
Isn't that a form?
It's the same.
Yes. Isn't that a form of political influence?
It is definitely in a way, because, but at the same time, it's marketing and financial question, because people. No, I'm getting into a circle, but what are people interested in and what we make them to be interested in, so I won't get into. But all the governments, since, I don't know when, since the Ministry of Culture, who was Pavel Tigrit in early 90s, mostly none of the ministers of culture go to the theatres regularly. I don't remember president being in the National Theatre or showing publicly interest in the theatre. So it's like, I think it's not that they are not interested in culture, but they are mostly interested in economical aspects of the society. And that's something what could sooner or later influence the National Theatre, but on the other hand, not starving the theatre, the National Theatre to death, but the contrary, giving the National Theatre enough money to keep its mouth shut, if I can say that. And I think, yeah.
So the combination that we have full bellies and we are not really visible.
I think that might be something what might be coming, because our Prime Minister tries to calm everybody by promising and giving the money. And the National Theatre, not that it's that influential institution, but within the National Theatre, you have loads of influential people who could publicly express their opinion. So it's better to call the National Theatre as an institution as such, not to criticize publicly too much or let it more on individuals, or try to influence the individuals via the National Theatre, if I'm clear. Like, let's not demonstrate against Andrej Babiš, because there was one situation where the society was heading towards a lot of demonstration against Andrej Babiš, who is our Prime Minister, and just 3 days before a very big demonstration, he appeared in the National Theatre with his helmet on the head, looking at some reconstruction site of the state opera.
He didn't come in the helmet, he received it.
No, he received it. It's not that he walks around with the helmet all the time. And while being in the National Theatre, he started to promising the money to the National Theatre for a new reconstruction, which for me is a sign how to subversively make the director of the National Theatre ask the department not to protest that much, or not to protest as an institution, because we are all waiting for the money to reconstruct this and that. So for me, it's the other way around. Maybe the experimental scene is facing completely different problems, like being starved out to death. This is, I think, in a way, this is more dangerous.
So we are back to neoliberal means how to simply go on with the ideas without having an open conflict, and the question is what to do about it from your position that anyway has authority and legitimacy to speak out. My next question concerns the fact that all your 4 theatres have a very long history, which is again both an advantage and disadvantage in some way, because you somewhat carry, as I said, some kind of authority. You represent some cultural heritage. You are having this in your mission even. Teatr pro všechny was a politically profiled theater. Then it was the theater of stars, as you said yesterday, and then it turned back to the political theater. So its force also comes from the history of being a theater with this or that director active. My question is, how would you grasp exactly this relationship between your nowadays mission and the fact that you are anchored in the history through some kind of values, legitimacy down through the time and so on? If I can, yeah, okay. You don't remember. We did a questionnaire, so I have some answers in advance. Miriam was speaking about this vertically and horizontally structured theater. Pavel was speaking more about being a resistance, a shelter for those who want to resist the system. Marta was speaking about care of cultural heritage that must be treated as something dynamic, not something that should be conserved, basically. And Andras, I'm rather curious about your answers. So if you have some ideas already now how to comment your previous short answers, I would be very happy.
So I can start?
Yes.
We had kind of definition which really came from our former boss, Polak, and he also presented it one meeting between the national theaters in Poland. It was actually, and it was his understanding that the national theater has very strong cultural heritage. We will be 100 years old national theater, so we are still too young actually. But the mission is to be horizontal, so go also across the history. And for us, this means, for example, to also find like a wide gap in the history with topics which are, from historical point of view, not such comfortable or okay, which are still not solved, and to be it's vertical and to be like horizontal in the meaning that you have to make researches on the things which are a problem or conflict now. So it also means to deal with the populism, to deal with the social dividing or distinction of the society, to searching for a contemporary place. So this is this understanding with what everything this national theater should do and how is our approach. So it means to take a classic, but this doesn't mean that it has to be nice and polite and we have to see like 19th century.
What is the good tradition you would like to keep? Yes. The good values from the past, so to say. And what should be actually changed? Is this okay? Is this something you can reflect on?
To be still open for our, normal democratic values, but the National Theatre was still the theatres also of good actors. So when we are speaking about the profession, we have to, keep the tradition, to have really good actors, to have really good directors, to really create piece of art. It was still something, and we have to be in this tradition to do this kind of total top of the art. From this our point of view, and to still think what kind of values for contemporary society we need to keep. What does it mean to speak about equality? What does it mean to speak about diversity? What does it mean for us now? And this is, what we have to solve, what we have to put on the stage, and how we have to think about it.
The Hungarian National Theatre, or better to say the troupe of the Hungarian National Theatre, was founded in 1837. And it was a special period of Hungarian history because at that moment, at that period, it was forbidden to play in theater in Hungarian language. so only in German language was possible. So it was a kind of part of political struggle for independency, cultural struggle for independency, and to create a sovereign Hungarian theater culture, let's say. So of course there was a big influence from the German theater, from the French, Italian, and so on. But founding the Hungarian National Theatre Troupe was the starting of the professional Hungarian theatre. After that, there were different periods and lots of political debates about the meaning of the national theatre and the purpose of the national theatre. But maybe, so I don't want to tell you all the story because it's a long story.
Your opinion about nowadays mission.
So there was an interesting period in the 30s, 1930s in the National Theatre, because a new young Hungarian director became the director called Antal Német, who was a highly professional and skilled director, and he tried to put the Hungarian so-called conservative theatre life into the European context. So he collaborated with Max Reinhardt, also he had a big influence of Meyerhold or Stanislavski, so he wanted to revolutionize the Hungarian theatre life, keeping at the same time the Hungarian national cultural heritage or these traditions. So, and one more point, so in this, the troupe of the National Theatre had his own building until 2002. Until this time, so more than 150 years, the troupe was moving from building to building, but always the National Theatre and the troupe and the repertoire of the National Theatre was a kind of symbol of the independency, cultural independency. And it seems that that's why in the 65, the building... Okay, so,
sorry for making
okay, so our goal is to
resonate?
Yes.
You are speaking a lot about independence, the need of the Hungarian identity. How does it resonate nowadays?
So now we try to renew, to understand, to reflect for this turbulent situation, not only in the Central Europe but all over the world, and to declare or to understand what is Hungarian identity, Hungarian cultural heritage in the 21st century, in dialogue with other cultures.
Your mission is rather different, as I understood from your previous answer.
Yes, our mission is I don't know, critical mission, but what does it mean, critical mission? Because you know the problem with this critical political theater is that it is very easy to lose this critical sharp, this real critical sharp of your artistic activities. Yes, so for me the most important is you know, to still observe the state of the society, the changing, incredibly fast changing world. Yes, and because, for example, this notion of national, yes, in Poland, national was something different in communism time, for example, and something different in 19th century, when Poland didn't exist on maps and was divided between Russia, Germany, and Austria. In the communist time and in the 19th century, the aim of the theater was to build national identity. Yes, but national because real Poland, real national identity doesn't exist. So we have to try build this tradition and keep this tradition in art, in literature, in the theater. After 1989, the situation is different, I think. So if you mentioned about the tradition of powszechny theater in the 70s, in the 80s, when it was very important place for opposition, for political anti-communist opposition, I think
but
it
not
will.
for identity, maybe.
Yes, it was completely different political context. I think, and now propositions of repeat the repertory from 70s or from 80s, the plays made at this time by Zygmunt Hibner, the patron of the stage. Now it can be like, you know, like maybe not like an entertainment, but like, okay, it's normal repertoire without controversies, without this political context. From that time, for example, the enemy of the people, which in 70s was one of the most political performances in this theater. So I think that the most important is to find this critical sharp.
So to say, the good tradition is this awareness of now I must all the time, or we must all the time reconsider what is exactly our position, or if I got you right.
Yes. Don't repeat simple models, but looking for new ways, new profound ways to you know find deeper critical language of the theater.
What does it mean, Marta, to take care of cultural heritage and at the same time to work with this in a dynamic way? In order, really try to go to the point. We know all that we want to, not to repeat old models, but what does it mean in real?
When I started to work in the National Theatre 4 years ago, I wished we could drop the term national and just be a theatre, and all the problems would have been solved. And nowadays I think it's actually good that there is the term national, because this term is at stake now, and there's loads of groups in society who try to steal the term national for itself and redefine it. And this is one of the mission of the National Theatre, to show that the national means open, and that we have to keep questioning ourselves who the nation is, what it is. And one of the mission is not to repeat what has been done or what has been made, but try to find new ways how to either communicate with the audience, or how to grow artistically, or who is eligible to feel to belong to the National Theatre / to belong to nation. So this is for me the biggest question, or the biggest matter of the term national at the moment. You know.
A small little answer for this big question. Can you give us some hints? Where are your ideas going to?
I think that still, because we grow as a very small nation, and in fact all the concept of Czechs as a nation is intellectual concept which grow up in a very small group of people, and I think we should move this concept to much wider group of people, not reducing the nation to those who founded the National Theatre 150 years ago.
This is an interesting, let's say, trick to go against populist ideology, against elite by widening the idea of what was done by elite through the whole
Which is
nation.
in fact very difficult to do in a theatre, because if we treat theatre as an institution where you go to enjoy yourself and have fun, which is most of the Czech theatres at the moment, then it's difficult to attract somebody who would like to, more than just pure entertainment, which is something what theatre is facing all over the world, I think.
I also ask you to reflect on your, let's say, social impact. We have been discussing this on the general level already, but now I would be extremely interested in seeing some examples of what kind of performances, because this is basically the way how you communicate with the public, what kind of performances do you use in order to, let's say, in Miriam's case, that you open the field of questioning in a critical thinking. Marta was speaking about a broader or extremely narrow audience. Pavel speaks about critical or opening, articulating the conflicts. András was speaking about different layers of society and trying to be simply just to everybody who is living in the country. Can you come with some totally particular examples? We know that we will not exhaust what you are doing in your theatres, but just to have an idea.
I should mention this.
That you already, yes.
Okay. So on one side, of course, you can find big stories, because normal audience, as our colleague Zuzana Luchenska was asking, how normal audience react on things. So yes, somewhere between Fanny and Alexander, Jane Eyreova, Madame Bovary, Brother Karamazov's, these big stories and adaptations, as you can see like normal classic, like Richard Gutter, etc. And between all these, the performance is really based on kind of the research or kind of the criticism or main question: who is leading our country now? What people lived in the past in communistic regime and who they are now. So therefore we create performance elites. And this will be the second example. And it's these elites, yes, it's documentary fiction done by Czech director
the screen for you?
Jiří Havelka.
We need maybe some technical support in order to make the film visible. Nemůže to být So we need more darkness, please, if there is some technical support with us, and probably also to put up the screen.
So this is one picture from our performance, which is dealing with the files from Institution of Memory of the Nations. So we were asking for a few thoughts, very concrete persons in our society. A lot of them are now not just our politicians or very famous writers, or they are priests or bishops, or they are the fabricants, etc. And we based this performance on the big part from the past, and we take their interviews from the contemporary newspapers, and we build like the second part. What were their compromises with consciousness in the past when they write that signature that they will be collaborator with the state secret policy or intelligence, and what they are doing now. And immediately, one day after opening night, that our colleagues, our journalists wrote all article about this, who is who in this story. So when the performance will come, they can read it, they can find it, they can think about this. I cannot say that it has such a strong impact that we had a lot of like requests or from this person, this concrete person, what we did against them. It was like total silent from their side. But I mean, it was still very open in the public, and during performances when I'm sitting there, the people try to find this person. But for us, it was not like we need to show that it was this, and he's guilty for this, and this is guilty for this. Therefore, I'm using the term like documentary fiction. So this is one example.
You were even discussing this with lawyers? So
yes, we were discussing with lawyers, so I'm not using any names. So when you need, you can see that Monika Todova wrote it directly after opening. She was running at home and write all what she thinks that who is who. And I don't know who is who, it's documentary fiction, you can just see it. And the second example was when our colleague, Iveta Škripkova from the middle part of Slovakia, the puppetry theater, Crossroads, maybe she will be also speaking about the situation which were there. Now we have the right-wing party, total extremist party in the parliament. And in that moment we decided that we also have to say something, so we created another special performance called Natálka, and we decided to travel across the schools. We were in the region in Bratislava and east part of Slovakia, Košice, Spišská Nová Ves, and down in the south, Rimavská Sobota, Filakovo, and in the north.
So say the content.
Yes, and the content is that we were dealing how to do something against extremism, what to do, so we decided to take one real, very sad story, very bad story, here from Czech Republic from 2009, when 4 boys who belonged to the extremist party decided one night came and throw the Molotov cocktails to the gypsy family, and one 2-year-old girl in that moment was totally almost burned, and she survived, thanks God. And we created and put this story on stage. And we had a lot of troubles with it, because the people from this extremist party started to be against us, and they sued you. And they sued us, personally me and my colleague director, and we have to go to speak with police, etc. Problem was that you see there is on the right side there is a Holy Mother, and behind her is Hakenkreuz. And this was problem that we are against the religion, and this performance is totally problematic because of this, that we want to say to people that the religion is something bad and that we are against Catholicism, etc. So we were dealing with this problem like all time when we were playing this performance. And in one performance, yes, these are our friends from police, these boys.
This is the Ministry of Justice. These films that are circulating now are somewhat showing.
But this is better. This is on the right side.
Yes.
How
the performance.
So on one film we had accident that this the candidate on ombudsman and the lady from the government. That she's a member of parliament from this extremist party. They wanted to visit the performance between the children, and they wanted to tell to the old people from these conspirative medias that we want to brainwashing the heads of young people, that it's totally forbidden, that this is total poison performance, we cannot do it. So this head of that region this Mr. Fresho has to stop them, and all performance they deal with them. And the way how we are playing performance is that we have a 45-minute performance, and after a discussion with 2 historians who are thinking and who are speaking about similarities between totalitarianism and this kind of regimes like fascism and communism to this way of thinking of extremism, etc. And we are speaking about democracy, what does it mean for these people. So I can say I know like 1,000 young people in Slovak Republic and their opinion about democracy and what they think, where is the problem, etc. and so on. So this was one example how to go out from this stone building, cross the regions, and really to keep kind of the dialogue and to also has kind of the consequences. But now this causa is stopped, so everything is okay. And in that moment when they had a problem, we did also like 2 public performances that we decided, okay, we will be playing in the theater and you are welcome to come. No one of them visited this performance. Never. They never. And the problem, they never saw it. They just saw the picture. So all problems started that they just saw the picture of that Holy Mother. That was all. After we had few special calls, they recorded our calls and our answers and etc. etc. So,
excellent example how suffering of a 2-year-old girl can be interpreted as an attack against Christianity, and how people at some school event that is closed for the secondary school and their authorities have the feeling of right to control that event in order to protect kids against manipulation, as they said, literally.
But it was nowhere else in Slovakia was like this kind of the problem. Even when we were in this region, maybe when it can be much more dramatic. I mean, also from the perspective that also this open like social topics with the gypsy community. And when we were playing in these regions where they have like problem with the communities, how to deal with this, it was totally the best discussion ever. And during all that speaking and discussion with the children, you can see how this polarization of the society is also inside of the one class, and how the teachers are responsible, how the parents are responsible, how these kids need to just talk because they feel they have no space where to really talk, just somewhere anonymously on the internet. And this was for them a big opportunity to be open and to tell what they think. And we were able to also discuss, but what are you thinking about this? What does it mean for you to be against the system? Do you know in which system we are living now? Etc., etc.
Do you have the impression that after the talk kids changed their opinion, or after the performance?
You can see that a lot of them, they were totally touched, really like touched persons with normal empathy. And I mean, this is important word in all these our problems. What does it mean, normal empathy? And you can see when it is not like this that you have in one class somewhere 10 neo-Nazis. It's still that few of them start to speak, and they are able to influence all that group, or it's like this, that in this moment when they are too loudly, all this group is trying to take the courage, say them, no, you're not right. And it was not like we changed their minds and now everybody is open-minded, but it was important for them and for us to see that they want to think about these things. They want to think about their own responsibility, also in elections, etc.
Thank you very much. I think that Pavel's example is relatively close in some structure, so if I may, I would give you now.
Okay, so let's see very short clip. It's around our performance, The Curse, directed by Oliver Friedrich. We performed this show 1 year ago during PalmOFF festival on this stage. Yes, and after this premiere, our theater was like, you know, aim of hate speech and actors. The performance is classical drama written by in the beginning of 20th century, and this is the love story about the young girl from the countryside with the priest. They have children, etc. And Oliver Friedrich decided to use this some excerpts from this drama and prepare the story of the church's power in Poland, and especially the story about the acts of sexual harassment and pedophilia in the church. It's not connected. Okay, so we can only watch it without the sound. it's the pity because the religious songs are very spectacular, I think, in this video.
So people surrounded, or some part of the public surrounded your theater in order to protest against something they actually, the majority of them, or maybe all of them, didn't see.
Yes, the most important thing was the person of John Paul II, Polish Pope, who in Poland is I think more important than Jesus Christ, and it's not a joke but real situation. And in the performance, in this scene about pedophilia in the church, there is the metaphorical but very strong scene, the fellatio with Pope's statue. And after this fellatio, there is the big label, patron of pedophiles, on this figure. And as I mentioned, in Poland, Pope John Paul II is like, taboo person. It's impossible to speak about his heritage, about his openly. He is only the hero of anti-communist battle, and the hero who created Polish modern Catholic society and identity. And after this premiere, we had a lot of manifestations, a lot of attacks in our theater, in front of our theater. And when these neo-Nazis and extreme religious groups understood that it's very difficult and almost impossible to break the performance, they did something like this, that after the set of playing the Curse, we performed Falling, directed by Arpad Schilling, Hungarian director, and during one of the Falling performances, somebody threw in the theater acid substance, and theater was closed for some weeks because of this accident. And now, for example, 3 weeks ago, we have shown the Curse in Słupsk, and it was impossible because one day before the show there was also acid attack in the theater in Słupsk. But our technical department and our technical manager decided that they changed the location, and during, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours, they built the stage on the basketball court. And actors played without rehearsal, but it was really successful and important show, I think. But what is, because of course now this performance, the Curse, are probably the most important title in our repertory, in our activities, and some kind of strong point also for other Polish theaters. But what is interesting for me also in our discussion, it's this experience of Oliver Frljić, but also other directors and artists from Balkans. This experience of the war in the beginning of 90s. I think it's very strong point of view, and we spoke a lot with Oliver, who is observing this far right wing, this far right wings and conservative turn in contemporary societies, especially in Central Europe, and for him this is very similar situation to Yugoslavia after 1989. That it was also this conservative turn in Yugoslavian society, and the battle how we can